Assalamu alaikum, dear students. It's me, Muhammad Zubair Khan, and this is the fifth week of Statistic 2. And in previous week, we have studied that how to calculate the weighted aggregative indices. Today, we will discuss some special weighted aggregative indices, and the special weighted aggregative indices are we have the formulas as well as we have some conditions to discuss. The first one is Lespier's index number. The Lespier's, the second one is the Parshey's index number. The third one is the Fisher index numbers, and the fourth one is Marshall Edward index number. So we have to discuss these four indices or weighted aggregative indices, which are used for the comparison of the prices from one time period to another time period if the quantities are given in different conditions. So if you see the first one, that is called Lespier's index number. In Lespier index numbers, you need to understand only the point which is important to understand, that is that when the base year quantities used as waste. We have studied that when we were calculating the weighted aggregative indices, so we were using the formula that is summation of Pn PNW divided by uh, n or divided by summation of P naught W multiplied by 100. We were using this one formula. Now instead of W or instead of weight, if the quantities are given, if the quantities are given which are representing by Q, the quantities in base time periods are given, so we are representing them by Q naught, capital Q naught, or you can say small q naught. So when base year quantities used as weights, when the quantities are given in base year, so these are representing by q naught, and when we are using them as a weight instead of w, if you see only difference between the previous formula that we have studied in previous class and this one formula is that instead of w we have q naught in the numerator as well as in the denominator. So when the base year quantities are used as weights, means instead of weight, if we use only the quantities which are given in base time period, so when we are calculating the indices or index for different years, that is basically called what? Lespier's price index. The second one is Parshey's index number. What Pashi says that when the current year quantities are used as weights. If you see, only difference between this formula and this one is that here we have Q naught in the numerator as well as in the denominator we have Q naught. And in this formula we have Qn, and in the numerator as well as in the denominator where we have Qn. Because capital Qn or small qn representing quantities or weights in current time period. When the quantities are given in current year, that is basically called what? Qn. That's why it's very much clear in the Parshi's index numbers that when the current year quantities are given as weights or used as weights, that is basically called what? Parshi's index number. It means that we have to, for example, if we have the 2 year data, so for 2 year data we will write q naught, q naught, we will write p1, q1. It means that we will find the product of these q naught and p naught, q1 and q1 and p1. So we have to find out the products. The products mean the multiplied form of these columns. So in practically or in question, we will try to solve when we are going to find out to calculate the Lespiers, the Parsheys, the Fishers, or the Marshall price indices. So what we have to do, we need to calculate the columns. We need to make the columns, and then we will find out the summation of the columns according to the formulas. So in Parshe's index numbers, basically, we are using what? Qn, and in the numerator as well as in the denominator. It means only you need to understand that instead of W, that we are using what? Qn, and in the numerator as well as in the denominator. So which is representing what? The current, the quantity in current time period. The third one is Fisher index number. Fisher index number, which is represented by IF. You can represent by any numbers, by any alphabets you can use, but here I am using I as an index number. In subscript form, I am writing L. So IL means less pairs price index. IP means Parsh's price index, and IF means Fisher price index. So Fisher price index was what Fisher price index says. Fisher basically says that when we take the geometric mean of the less pairs and the Parsh's price index, so it's giving us a Fisher price index. What is mean by geometric mean? Geometric mean means that multiply them and take the square root. So that will be the geometric mean. Instead of this one, you can write the values also. You can write in this form, this particular formula in this form also, that you can write like this: I f equal to square root of, write this one, summation of Pn Q naught divided by summation of P naught Q naught multiplied by 100 multiplied by summation of Pn Qn divided by summation of P naught Qn multiplied by 100. Or we have two hundreds in multiplied form, so we can take it out of the square root. So you can write in this form also: summation of Pn Q naught divided by summation of P naught Q naught multiplied by summation of Pn Qn divided by summation of P naught Qn and multiplied by 100 out of square root. Because it becomes square, that's why it's out of square root. So by this way, it means that when you are calculating the Fisher price index, it means you have to calculate the less pair as well as the Parsh's. Just take both of them in the product form, in multiplied form, and then square root, so you can get the Fisher price index also. The fourth one is the Marshall-Edwards. Marshall and Edward, these two are the English economists, the Britain economist, and they developed the formula for what? For the price index, for the weighted price index, and they give their names. So IME, it means that Marshall-Edwards index numbers, summation of Pn multiplied by Q naught plus Qn divided by summation of P naught multiplied by Q naught Qn plus Qn multiplied by 100. So this is what they are saying. They're saying that the average of base year and current year quantities are used as base. The average of base year. The average of base year. Here we are using what? The base year quantity. Here we are using the current year quantity as weights. Here we are using the average of base and current year quantities are used as weights. So if we use the current and base year quantities, the average of current and base year quantities as weights, that is basically called what? Marshall-Edwards index numbers. So by using these four formulas, we can calculate all these indices, and it's very much simple when the quantities are given or when the data is given, so you can do it practically. So I will try to find out the less pairs, the Parsh's and the Fisher price indices by using these formulas in the next video. Thank you very much. You should try to search about these special price indices. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.